Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of B is for Build. In today's episode, we're continuing work on our R34, R35 body swap project. The game plan is to cut the entire body of this R35 off and then take our R34, cut the body off of that, and then put that body on top of our R35. So we have an R35 on the underneath and in the interior, R34 on the exterior. It's just like one hell of an R34 GTR body kit. So next things we gotta do right now is we gotta get the entire body off of this R35. By the end of this episode, there should be not even anything that resembles body left on this R35 GTR. Let's get started. Stay tuned. The to-do list is quite long and it can be a little bit daunting to look at it all as one picture, so sometimes I like to just start in the front and work my way back. So I'm gonna go ahead and start on these front fenders, remove the front fenders and the wheel liners. Fenders and fender liners came off pretty easily. The fender liner were definitely okay. All right. Sounds like the city's on fire. Anyways, fender liners we're definitely gonna hang on to, and then what I'll probably do in the front here is the one thing I hate on a lot of R34s, you see people, they don't have a front fender liner, so we'll probably buy some generic ones off of, say, like a 350Z or something like that, trim them to fit and install them in the front, and use the stock GTR ones in the back. So the next thing, we got to cut the windshield out of here and cut this A-pillar off of here, but I want to get the door clear first. These doors are in perfectly good condition, so they're worth a lot of money, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the doors out of the way before we do any of that. And this the uninstall is really easy because they have these little clips here that manage all the electronics for the door. So you literally just kind of, press this stuff around, pop that clip out, and then the door will all come off in one piece, and I'm just gonna take the hinges with it. Doors came off really easily. It's starting to look like a little bit more progress now. We're getting a lot closer to our end goal. I love the way Nissan does their doors. That was like a super easy process. Now we will be bringing those back later on to test the pinouts on some of these things to figure out which one of those things, for instance, is like an input for the door window up and down switch, or say the door lock switch. All those different things we have to figure out so we can integrate them into the R34 door. The big one is going to be the door window motor. And I know on these newer, more modern cars, they have sensors to tell when they're getting up to the top and all these different things, and I don't think the R34 is going to have that, so that'll be tricky stuff to figure out later on. Basically working towards that full integration to get the R34 body to work like an R35, because we do have an R34 door. That's not just a skin, that's the whole thing. Anyways, next thing we're gonna do is cut the windshield out and cut the A-pillars off, kind of at the same time. So what we're gonna do here is I'll use the windshield, the glass removal tool that we used in the last episode, and I'll cut the gasketing out of the bottom edge, and then coming up this top edge here. Then I'll space the glass off a little bit, and then I'll come in with the saw and cut it nice and high up here for the initial cut, and that will then let this whole thing kind of fall out. I might have to grab Kyle for an extra hand, because it might break the windshield if I just cut one side at a time. Things that we got to make sure that we don't touch is the dashboard. Do not want to damage the dashboard whatsoever. And then I'm going to go ahead and nicely uninstall these A-pillar pads too, in case we want to use them for the R34 in any way. This is the most technical piece of what we got to do. We got the windshield cut all the way around the bottom and the top edges, and then before I went to do the cutting of the A-frame, I decided, you know what, let's just cut it along the top. And I was dragging the handle really hard with my hand, and my knuckle drug really hard across this edge, and oh my god, it just cut right through my knuckle. So I'm one finger down now. Now it's time to go ahead and cut the A-pillar off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and zip it like right here on both sides, and that'll take the A-pillar down. One really interesting thing that I noticed, I mean, I guess it's not staggeringly interesting, is that when I took the cowl trim piece off here, this air filter area is just like an open hole. You can see some little debris got in there. I'm pretty positive that's not how it is from the factory. So if anybody knows like what this part is, or if any, I don't know, I could go look on my other R35. Pretty sure there's a cover that needs to go over this so it allows air in but doesn't allow any moisture in, because as it was basically like if when the water came off the window, if it went underneath the cowl, it would just dump right into the car, which is terrible. So I'll either have to fabricate something, or if that's an OEM Nissan part, that's something I can just order. I'll get that cap on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the reciprocating saw and trim this A-pillar off. Being very careful not to get these wires. Well, it's a lot shorter now. Got the A-pillar out of here. No more windshield trim, none of that stuff. That is all cut out. That's some thick steel right there. So it's actually the next day, and that's because yesterday I spent the rest of the day playing with the measuring tape and basically panicking. Dimensionality wise, this car is actually a lot more challenging than the last time we did this on a Mustang. It's to the point now where when I look at the challenge of cutting this thing in half long ways and shortening it, I'm not even really that worried. That's not the part that's got me. It's fitting the R34 body on here in a way that's not absolutely terrible. So basically the problem is, like all new cars, the distance between here and the top of the dash is like a lot taller, and the distance from here to the ground is a hell of a lot taller. So that's kind of why there's a problem, because I can't mount the R34 frame down here underneath the R35, and that's where it would want to be naturally. So then to counteract that, we have to do a bunch of crazy stuff where we mount it there and then we lower the entire car down really far, and then yeah, luckily the R34 GTR has a pretty meaty side skirt that will cover it up. But you guys, if you remember our original Mustang project, we had a little bit of this problem. On this one we have a lot less of actually of a problem than we did on the Mustang. So hopefully nobody will be the wiser and nobody will notice, but it's something that's got me just absolutely panicked. But we will make it work. We will figure this out. Sometimes I have a problem where I sit and I look at the problems and I try and problem solve them, knowing in my head that there's kind of no real right answer to do right now. I just got to keep doing stuff, but it's like you get scared to do the wrong thing, so you don't want to grab a saw and start cutting away at the car because you're worried that you're going to cut the wrong thing. But most of the time, just making forward progress is actually better than sitting there and thinking about stuff forever, and it kills my productivity. So I'm going to grab the saw and keep cutting. So right here, this is the frame rail, and you can see it starts to flare out here and go into the quarter panel. All of this stuff right here, including as much of this tower as I can get away, I'm gonna go ahead and take off, so we're down to just that bare frame rail. That's kind of the last piece that we need to cut into, I believe. That's my hope. So I gotta get everything off of that and clear of that. Got that section cut out, and this is its own piece. This is actually how it's manufactured. When I did my last GTR, it was kind of hit in the rear quarter panel, and I thought this was all bent stuff that was all from the wreck. This little bent part right here is actually from the wreck. The rest of this is all how it comes from the factory, weirdly enough. I'll show you the other side, it matches. So anyways, this piece will come off. You can see it's tack welded on around here. Eventually that's gonna come off, but right now it's bolted into this big bar that runs across the center of the car, and I kind of want to leave that in there for now. So I just cut everything else off, being really careful to take out the seatbelt. Seatbelt real components and unbolt the this is for the fuel pumps. This is a fuel pump controller module, so I wanted to make sure that that didn't get damaged. Label my my ground wiring bundles, those types of things. So make sure all the wiring is labeled so I can know what it is when we come back to it, and nothing got cut. So that's good. Now the other side still has quite a lot more body to it than the previous side, so I'll go ahead and make quick work of that with a cutoff wheel, and then do the same process, the same uninstallation of the seatbelt reel, this wiring, get it out of the way, and make the same series of cuts. Driver's side is done. Now we're going to continue the theme of starting in the front and working our way to the back. So I'm going to get back here. The frame rail needs to stop right around here. This looks like an extension of this inner frame rail right here, so we can't modify this really. I don't like how it comes out a little bit here. So we may have to, well, we may have to modify it in the long run, but I don't want to do anything right now until we know for sure. But that's going to stop right about there, and then our body's going to be sliding into here, so this is going to be in the way. So I cut the spot welds on this. I think I could just get a cutoff wheel right through the middle of here, cut down through here, and the strut tower is right here, so everything above the strut tower can start to go as well. So I just want to start really cutting away at this back corner. This one doesn't have the fuel filler cap, so there's a lot less chance of me exploding myself. So I'll just go ahead and start cutting wildly over here and see what we end up with. I just thought of something pretty funny. By the time this vehicle is done, the tool that we will have used the most on it will not be a 10 mil socket, it won't be a welder, it'll be a cutoff wheel and a reciprocating saw. You don't hear people every day be like, oh, grab a saw, let's start to work on the GTR. Got the strut tower area cleaned up a lot better. I wanted to leave as much of the supports in here and around here as I could, and I think that's a good amount. The rest of this stuff is going to start to go as we get back. This is my line for the rear trunk, or the, what do they call this, the deck or something like that? This thing, shelf, speaker deck shelf. That's where I'm going to be cutting this, and then, you know, we're going to kind of come through here, and all this stuff is going to go out. Right down through here, there's a nice support I want to leave, so we're taking off this. And now I need to go ahead and rotate to the other side. This side's got a lot more challenges. We've got the fuel filler right here that definitely could be damaged, could be vented open and stuff like that, so I can't be sending sparks around that thing. I need to start by cleaning up this area, doing the same type of thing over here, same type of thing with this this wheel arch right here, taking that out, and then I need to safely get to the fuel filler and then cap it off and detach it. So we'll be jacking up the car, probably pulling this wheel off of here and taking a look at that. Actually, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and do that first. Good news, bad news down here. You guys know that this is the one wheel that was kicked off the wrong angle. It looks like the lower control arm that sets the toe, these are some aftermarket control arms, I believe, looks like it's broken off from the subframe back there. So that's a really, really simple fix, and that's good. I think I'll probably go ahead and just order a whole new set of control arms for this thing, upper and lower. And that'll set the you know, the suspension effectively back to straight. But we have the bad news is coming up here, where we've got so much stuff that is like impacting in. It's actually pressing the hard line of the fuel for the fuel filler up against the shock tower, and it's just all a really big mess around here, all kind of culminating around this part where the rear subframe bolts in. So that's the really bad news. All that stuff has got to get out of there, and then it's all got to be rebuilt back around there, coming up and then back down to that rear subframe. So that is gonna be quite tricky. So now, this is shut, so sparks shouldn't fall down it. But I'm gonna try and use the reciprocating saw as much as I possibly can because it doesn't create nearly as many sparks. And I'm just gonna start cutting away at as much of this stuff as I can because it's kind of folded over. So it's like there was a bunch of stuff that went out here and it folded over under. If I can get it cut in the middle, I might be able to pull a big chunk of it away from there. But I gotta get all of this out of here eventually. So slowly but surely, I'll just keep chipping away at it. But I'm gonna try and use the reciprocating saw as much as I possibly can because it doesn't create nearly as many sparks. And I'm just gonna start cutting away at as much of this stuff as I can because it's kind of folded over. So it's like there was a bunch of stuff that went out here and it folded over under. If I can get it cut in the middle, I might be able to pull a big chunk of it away from there. But I gotta get all of this out of here eventually. So slowly but surely, I'll just keep chipping away at it. Got a lot more of this passenger side buttoned up, so I found a little bit more of the problem. The body parts that are crunched in here are actually pushing that shock this way, which is then tilting the wheel in. I took that rear control arm completely off, the one that adjusts the toe, so the whole unit should be able to slide back this way, but the shock is pinned. So that is the very next thing that I got to do. It's all part of kind of removing all of this trunk stuff that I don't know if you can tell, but we're just running out of daylight, so I didn't get time to do it. But I'll be coming in here. I can see all of this fuel pickup stuff now. The hose is completely kinked right here, so I'll have to order a new one. Might go to a rubber hose kind of, because the body where the GTR's one is going to be different, so we might go rubber hose for a small section. But yeah, I got to cut through all this and then cut through the trunk and get that out of there, and then probably going to have to rebuild the rear support section of this strut tower. It's still in the right spot, but it's going to need some support coming back down, and I think that's toast. All in all though, that was a really good cutting session. We got a lot done. This thing looks a lot different, obviously. In the next episode, I think we're gonna have to gut the interior, get the dash out, get the seats out, get the carpet out, and then cut the car lengthwise. We're gonna have to cut it long ways so we can take that 4 inches out of the car. So I hope you guys will subscribe so you don't miss any of our episodes. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace!